Hello everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite bands of all time. And this is one of the top 6 or top 10 of the thrash metal bands out there. And it's one of the bands that has come back with a vengeance. Once the 90s hit, a lot of those bands kind of fizzled out, or if they put out albums, there were sometimes some lame albums. But these guys came back with a vengeance in '04. But I'm going to go right back to the beginning here, and we're going to start talking about the first album. This is kind of a review of the first album. It's kind of a little bit of my story, how I got into them. Slightly, I'm going to be reviewing a little bit of each album, but just a quick, short description of what I like about that album and everything else. And with some other little things here and there. Alright, so when I first heard Death Angel, it was through the video Bored off the album Frolic Through the Park. Now I thought that was kind of cool and interesting one. And then of course the next song I hear by then was Mistress of Pain. You know, definitely polar opposites. So of course when I first heard Mistress of Pain, I was blown away by it. And that scream that he does in the song, if you watched my Rising Metal video, I put that in there. But I'm going to do it again because it's such an awesome, wicked scream. This is what I love about Mark singing, and here it is. Yeah, that was just epic. So the Ultraviolence is an awesome album. It was a really great debut by Rob and Gus Peppa, or Dennis. I forgot what I think. Dennis was the bass player. And then, of course, Andy's drumming on it. I mean, it was just awesome. Those guys were, they're cousins, for those of you who don't know. And they were young, and they were just like, you know, blazing a trail, I guess. You know, they were kicking ass in the thrash metal scene with their debut album. So the next album, Frolic Through the Park, which, with the song and the video of Bored, that one was kind of a cool one. I like Road Mutants. Third Floor, those are my favorite tracks off the album. Frolic Through the Park was good. I don't know, it's just kind of, Bored is just not, it's not a thrash metal song, it's a heavy song, but it's just one of those songs like, oh okay, this was just kind of a weird experimental thing for them, who the heck knows. But they released a video for it, and I thought it was kind of cool. But it wasn't until 1990 when they released Act 3 when I really took notice and said, oh yeah, I gotta get that tape. It starts off with Seemingly Endless Time. That was the music video that they released. It starts off with that water and even has a sound effect on the album. So I thought that one was kind of cool. I mean, I loved that song, the phrasing and everything about that song. And of course all the other songs off it, Veil of Deception, Room with a View, Stop, Disturbing the Peace, all the songs were awesome off of Act 3. Act 3 during that time was like one of my favorite albums. I even listed Death Angel yearbook photo. What happened was, right during 1990, a lot of these bands, early 90s, disbanded. So Mark left or was kicked out, what the heck ever, I'm not sure exactly. But once he left, the rest of the band members formed I don't want to say formed a new band because they were already a band. They just kind of changed the band name to the organization. Mark was out, it was the other guys, Andy, Gus, Dennis, and Rob, and they decided to change the band. It was just a whole different band, of course. The organization, which is a song off of Act 3, so I thought that was kind of weird. So I found that out. I bought the cassette tape of that. I listened to it. There were some interesting things on it. It was, you know, interesting to listen to, but yeah, it was like Death Angel gone alternative. It was a terrible thing. The organization was a short-lived, thankfully it was a short-lived musical experiment that they didn't continue with. Alright, so it'd be another 10 years before we'd actually hear anything from Death Angel after they reformed. Gus was back in the band, Dennis, and of course Andy. And I thought this was really awesome. This was cool and neat. The Art of Dying came out in 2004. It was a Bruce Lee quote. And it was a really strong album. It was a good album. It was a good comeback album. I really liked it. I thought the Killing Season, 2008 release, was pretty cool. Lord of Hate, Sonic Beatdown, and Lord of Hate were my favorite songs off that album. That was a good album. Of course, unfortunately, with the Killing Season, it would mark the last album for Gus, Dennis, and Andy. Andy Galileo, I forgot how to pronounce her name. But anyways, that was it for the actual original lineup of the original, 5 members of the 5 cousins. So it was cool. I liked those albums, but I didn't think they were going to come back as strong as they did. Damien on bass, Will Carroll on drums. A new lineup, okay, loses its feel and appeal of the original cousins that were in it. But 2010's Relentless Retribution is an awesome, epic friggin' album. The guitar work on there, the vocals, the drums, everything just sounds perfect. I think it was like a really cool comeback album. And it was better than the last 2, of course, unfortunately. I hate saying that because I wanted the original lineup, and I wish Andy at least was part of this lineup. But Relentless Retribution looks just like this cover. And of course, if we're going to be completely honest, I like Relentless Retribution a little bit better than The Dream Calls for Blood. Even though, of course, I like this album cover better. Relentless Retribution, which is the powerhouse. It was a friggin' mega album. It's hard to describe other than it was a kick-ass metal, thrash metal album that just had wicked songs on it. Claw So Deep is one of the most epic songs. That's my favorite song off of the album. The chorus on that and everything.
Crossing so deep they're ripping through the other side. Blood into this trap with broken promises and lies.
Of course, there was The Dream Calls for Blood, released in 2013. This one right here. Awesome, epic album cover. It's got the wolves that were on the first one, or Relentless, and it's at nighttime and it's winter, and it's just a really cool blue. I just like it. There's even a cassette tape of it. Yeah, for some reason cassette tapes have come back. I don't think they've come back, but that's what some people say. But I could say with the albums, because the albums are actually, it's just a bigger picture. I'd rather have the album of this than the cassette tape, I guess. Okay, so my favorite songs off of this tape are The Dream Calls for Blood, Left for Dead, and Succubus. Those are really cool ones. Also,
The dream calls for blood, and you not spilled enough.
Execution is a good one. It has that acoustic riff, and there for a second you think it's going to be another Veil of Deception or one of those types of ballads, which would have been cool and neat if they did. I wouldn't mind that at all if they did that, but it wasn't. But it has a cool acoustic intro, and I really like that in it. Then the other cool song is Detonate, which has this cool palm muted riff. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Ultraviolence. It has that kind of same feel to it. I love because it's palm muting, or just that little riff to it, how he's doing it, but it reminds me a little bit of the Ultraviolence, like it's a retake on that. That's what I think. Heaven and Hell. So that was really cool and neat too that they did that. I really like Death Angel. I think Death Angel is just one of those, once again, underrated bands. I think Rob is an awesome guitarist. He's incredible. I think his writing is good. And Mark, that do the main songwriting. I think it's just incredible. I think they're an underrated band. They've gotten a little bit more notoriety, I guess, just like with Tesla, or under the popularity of some of those other newer metal bands that have come out in the last 10 years or 12 years. And of course, these guys are just way better. These guys deserve more attention than what they've gotten and what they've received. They deserve more attention. There should be more focus on great bands like Death Angel and Exodus, and I'll just leave those two there. Those two bands deserve more attention. They're, of course, They're less popular than a lot of these other corny, other newer bands that have come out in the last 10 to 12 years. In the last 10 to 12 years, some of these newer bands are okay musicians, but don't touch and don't compare to like what Exodus and Death Angel have already done and have been doing in recent years. So that's my corner, that's my take on it, that's what I believe. These bands are like way better than a lot of these other newer bands, and a lot of these other newer bands get more attention. That's just the way the friggin' corn music industry works. The Evil Divided came out in 2016. Kind of an odd, corny album cover of the Moths, and was an okay song. There's several songs on there that are okay. I just didn't really love this album. Humanicide 2019, however, once again, they're returning to the Wolves cover concept. That one's kind of a cool, neat one. I like the cover. Same lineup as they had as on the last several albums. I think Humanicide is pretty good. I don't really love it. There's some songs I like on it. The songs I like on it are Vine Defector is a cool one, and I Came for Blood. I Came for Blood, it has this kind of like cool Blood has this like really cool old style fast riff. You listen to the riff, just the style of the riff or that sound, it sounds kind of just like a regular rocking riff. It doesn't really sound like thrash. There's something about it. And it's a fast paced one, so that one was really cool. That song really sticks out. I like that riff in that one. It's awesome. Okay, everybody, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you're new to Death Angel, definitely check out the first several albums. The first 3 that they did, The Ultraviolence, Frolic Through the Park, and or Act 3. Definitely check those out before digging more into these. It doesn't matter, I guess, how you do it. Maybe one of these other later ones were your first ones. But if you're going to check out the ones since the reunion, check out either Art of Dying, Relentless Retribution, or The Dream Calls for Blood. Thanks for watching. See you.